What's up guys, it's me Jeremy. Upsets are one of the best and most exciting parts of any competitive game, and League of Legends is no exception. Throughout the years there's been loads of crazy upsets that have led to some really awesome games. As we count down the list, we'll be measuring these upsets mostly by how unexpected the outcome was, as well as how impactful it was to the tournament. As well, really quick, I want to give a shout out to the new channel I'm working on, Gaming Curios Community. I'll be making community compilations and uploading a new one twice a week, so definitely check it out. Anyways, let's get started. At number 10, it's Velocity beating Marn 3-2 to qualify for the NA LCS. Team Marn was quite the fan favorite at the time, and after placing 7th in the regular season, due to a couple of bad weeks right at the end of the split, this ragtag group was put up against Velocity to re-qualify for the LCS. And after busting out some Ezreal jungle, Velocity cheesed their way to a victory, and after one of the worst LCS runs in history, proved the initial speculation that Marn was most certainly the better team that happened to be a victim of the cheese. Marn was a huge fan favorite at the time, so seeing them be disqualified was quite unexpected and really surprising to see. Number 9 was Gambit Gaming beating Azubu Frost 2-0 at IEM Katowice. After losing to Azubu Blaze and going 1-2 in the group stage, only to qualify for the bracket playoffs off of some really absurd tiebreaker based on the length of the game time, Gambit wasn't held to too much of an expectation for the playoffs. But in the first tournament they played under the name Gambit Gaming after losing the name of Moscow 5, they managed to pull their squad together to upset Azubu Frost, one of the Korean powerhouses at the time when Korea was emerging as the best region, and take the victory 2-0. Gambit would then go on to 2-0 Azubu Blaze as well and take the entire tournament. This was the event that started the theme of Gambit winning every IEM they attended, and showed that although the Koreans might be crazy strong, the European squad can still show up to play. Number 8 was TDK beating WinterFox 3-1 to qualify for the NA LCS. WinterFox had just barely snuck into the relegation tournament after a very poor finish to the LCS season, but with power players like Altec, Pobelter, and Helios, this squad was completely expected to steamroll their way back into the LCS, and the fact that they were in relegations at all was extremely surprising. However, Alexis proved to be a master elo booster and carried the team he was subbing for into the LCS. And this series proved that management issues and team dynamic will trump individual player skill on a team quite heavily, but fortunately a lot of the WinterFox players were happy to not be on the team anymore for whatever reason, and were able to find good spots in other prominent LCS teams. Number 7 is Unicorns of Love beating TSM 2-0 at IEM San Jose. With TSM coming off the back of Worlds and a first place finish in North America, and Unicorns of Love just recently qualifying for the EU LCS, the perceived level of power between the two teams was vastly in favor of TSM. TSM was certainly one of the favorites to take the whole tournament, alongside Alliance, debuting their brand new, supposedly powerhouse pickup in Reckless. But after busting out some Twisted Fate jungle and a monstrous performance by Power of Evil, we saw the worst tournament performance in Bjergsen's history as a player ever, and really surprised everyone with the chaotic style that UOL would eventually go on to play consistently. They took TSM by storm and pulled out a really surprising victory. Unfortunately, they lost to C9 in the finals, but this upset is one that will plague the history of TSM and North America as a region in general for quite a long time. Number 6 is when KMT, who later went on to become sponsored by Roccat, beat Ninjas in Pajamas to qualify for the LCS 3-0. With Ninjas in Pajamas sporting a roster that had multiple players from the Lemon Dogs roster that had played in the World Championship just a couple months before this match, the team was expected to be a powerhouse force similar to what LMQ eventually was in North America. However, the roster of KMT that was mostly unknown at the time outplayed them completely in all aspects of the draft and the gameplay, 3 games in a row to take the set in a total landslide and start a snowball of management and tournament fiascos for Ninjas in Pajamas that would eventually end up with them disbanding. With number 5, we're starting to break into the Asian scenes, and it's when MVP Ozone beat out CJ Entus Blaze 3-0 in the Season 3 OGN playoffs. Blaze was coming off of a 13-game winning streak and was set to totally steamroll the playoffs, so there was a lot of excitement to see them in the World Championship tournament. But MVP Ozone, as a huge underdog, crushed that dream with a dominant performance to clinch the spot at the World Championship and upset the Koreans on a crazy hot streak. Number 4 is when the KT Rolster Bullets beat SK Telecom 2-0 in the summer season of OGN 2014. This was Season 4 of course, so SKT had come off the back of a World Championship victory, and in the spring season of OGN, they had gone completely undefeated to crush the Korean scene like no one ever has, while KTB had just barely qualified for that split of OGN. When this match happened, it was an insane surprise to everyone, as many expected another completely undefeated, or at least close to undefeated, season for SKT, and this match led to a downward spiral for Faker and his team as they would go on to have a fairly average season and fail to qualify for the Season 4 World Championship after being what seemed to be the gods of League of Legends. Number 3 is Kaboom beating out Alliance at the Season 4 World Championship. This is probably the most famous upset, as Alliance was expected to be the best European team and give a strong showing in the tournament, while Kaboom snuck in through the wildcard qualifier, but completely outplayed and wrecked Alliance in this game to kick them out of the tournament and allow Cloud9 to continue on past the group stage. To put it into perspective, the teams that qualify to Worlds through the wildcard tournament have consistently failed to do well in even the challenger scenes, let alone qualify for any LCS. So this Brazilian squad became an instant fan favorite for many by pulling off a ridiculous upset to allow North America to push forward in the tournament, as well as giving the Brazilian scene a lot of merit to their teams, and showing that these wildcard regions do finally have some potential and are growing a lot and deserve to be supported as such, since before this upset many were calling for the wildcard qualifiers to be removed from the tournament entirely. Number 2 is World Elite beating the GE Tigers at IEM Katowice 2015 2-1. This upset is considered by most pros and analysts to be the most surprising upset of all time, as the GE Tigers were coming in off of a completely undefeated OGN season and was on paper considered to be the best team in the world, while World Elite wasn't even close to top 30 in the world in the mind of most people. Although World Elite would go on to lose to TSM in the final, this huge upset of a Korean powerhouse is paving the way for China to be the new dominant region in 2015 and led to a downfall of the GE Tigers being on top when they returned to OGN. The Western fans might not have cared too much about this since it was two Asian teams, but it really just came out of nowhere as GET was really expected to steamroll the entire tournament without any trouble at all. And at number 1, it's the Taipei Assassins beating Moscow 5 at the Season 2 World Championship. Although this upset wasn't as surprising as some of the others, it certainly was a lot more impactful, as Moscow 5 was thought to be the best team in the world at the time, and TPA was mostly unknown, coming from a region that was basically unheard of, and they would go on to win the World Championship quite handily. With the second place Taiwanese team getting pretty wrecked in the group stages, everyone expected TPA to lose instantly, but their squad proved to be really damn good, and Toys led his team to victory with some monstrous plays and a really dominant performance. This upset gave Taiwan a lot of merit as a region and helped the Taiwanese scene develop quite a lot too. Not to mention it was ridiculously unexpected, as for most viewers at the time we had never even heard of these Taiwanese teams since the region seemed so underdeveloped. And so the impact this upset had to the tournament and to the Taiwanese scene, combined with the fact that it really was ridiculously unexpected, led to this being the #1 upset in League of Legends history.
Back of a news, halfway on my two shoes, engaged into a game daddy sure to lose.